Hi, I'm Kalilah Reynolds and welcome to Taking Stock. We're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. Hey, by the way, did you hear the big news? KRM has now entered into an agreement with the Jamaica Observer. That's right. They're now carrying all of our written content in print and online with links to our videos. So I'm just so happy to be reaching an entirely new audience through this collaboration because you know what we do. We want to help people learn more about money. Also remember to head over to my website, KalilahReynolds.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. You can click the link up here or in the description box below. Now come on, let's get this money.
First up, eyebrows were raised when Supreme Ventures Limited SVL announced the purchase of a 10% stake in Main Event Entertainment Group. That's because Solomon Sharpe is chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited and also CEO and founder of Main Event Entertainment Group. Is there a conflict of interest? We'll ask him.
I'm an independent chairman there, so I'm not a material stakeholder or anything like that.
And later, the analysts weighing on the latest market developments. Massy Holdings Limited has reported a 47% increase in profits for shareholders.
Company who derives about almost half of its revenue and profits from Trinidad, which I know Carnival, got into a lot recently and was under severe restrictions and still managed to grow profit attributable to shareholders by 47% to TT $120 million.
And Salada Foods reported an explosive second quarter.
So if you look on the profits, it was up over 700% to 51.4 million.
We'll discuss.
But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
1,000 entrepreneurs have received free e-commerce websites from WePay through its affiliate company WeShops. WePay said its Project 1000 was part of their contribution towards the acceleration of e-commerce adoption in the Caribbean. WePay was also using the initiative to create a Guinness World Record for the most people hosted in a web development tutorial. Step-by-step guidance was provided during the May 16 event on how to create the free website. Project 1000 was open to anyone living in Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, St. Lucia, and Guyana. However, only entries coming out of Jamaica counted towards the Guinness World Record attempt. Project 1000 website owners also have access to post-event training and support. First Rock Capital Holdings is executing 3 major deals as part of its expansion in the region. The company, through its Costa Rican subsidiary, First Rock Capital Latam SA, closed a real estate deal recently. 2 other deals in Guyana are also on the verge of being closed. All 3 deals are expected to cost billions of dollars. The Costa Rican project is a multi-story residential development. It represents First Rock's 3rd transaction in the last 18 months, as the company continues to increase its assets in that country. First Rock says it also has plans to explore other countries in the region for investment in the near future. Opening an investment account through NCB Capital Markets Go IPO platform is now fully digital. Clients can open an account from anywhere in the world without having to visit a physical location. Additionally, customers can upload documents for the new account electronically. The platform also now facilitates the opening of joint accounts with a maximum of 3 joint holders per investment account. Only the primary account holder will be required to have NCB retail internet banking credentials to open the joint account. Grace Kennedy Group has acquired an additional 8% of Key Insurance. Since being acquired by GK Group in March 2020, Key has reported 3 consecutive quarters of profits. In January, Key raised $668 million in fresh capital through a rights issue. GK Capital Management had acted as lead broker and is reported to have spent $163 million to acquire just over 8% of the company. The GK Financial Group also acquired an additional 124 million shares during the rights issue, at a cost of $436 million to maintain their 65% stake. At the end of March, the GK Group owned over 73% of Key. The company has spent over $1 billion on the once loss-making company over the last year. Scotiabank and owner of the multi-million-dollar franchise Action Coach, Brad Sugars, will be hosting an online intervention to help small and medium-sized enterprises (SMEs) grow their businesses. Starting this month, registered participants will have free access to international business coaching for 30 days. Under the 30X program, participants will be exposed to winning strategies to optimize, revamp, or modify their business. Topics include direct marketing, social media content, leadership and management, and keys to systems, sales, and profit margins. Interested Scotiabank customers can register for 30X by contacting their business banking officer. A bill to amend the Companies Act to allow Jamaican companies to hold electronic meetings will be tabled in Parliament this month. Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce Audley Shaw provided details during his contribution to the 2021-22 sectoral debate in Parliament last week. The Companies Act does not currently allow Jamaican companies to host annual general meetings AGMs or extraordinary general meetings EGMs virtually or in a hybrid format. However, several companies have gone to court for approval to conduct such meetings as a result of COVID-19 restrictions.
What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart. And when we come back, we'll find out how sharp Solomon really is. See what I did there? Hey moneymakers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KalilahReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy. Welcome back to Taking Stock. Like everyone in the entertainment industry, Main Event has taken a big hit during the pandemic. Revenues down 88%, profit down 71%, but they've survived and they've even entered a new deal with Supreme Ventures Limited. Joining me now to discuss is CEO of Main Event Entertainment Group and Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, Solomon Sharpe. Hi Solomon, how are you?
I'm good, Kalilah. How are you?
I'm good. You look happy. You look like you're still, well, you must be. You just signed a big deal, no?
Yeah, well, and I'm well rested. You know, it's a different kind of pace that working from home and trying to keep safe. You know, you tend to cover a lot more in during the hours, but it's not that hustle bustle up and down. You know, and you get a little sleep at night. There's a curfew, so we don't need to be out at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning setting up venues and all of these kind of things. So we're a little bit more well rested. You know.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about all of that because, of course, Main Event is an entertainment company primarily, and that sector has taken a huge hit, including your company. But let's start with the latest news, this acquisition by Supreme Ventures. So Supreme Ventures has taken a 10% stake in Main Event, and you're now launching into a partnership to establish a production company. Tell me, how did this deal come about?
Well, some of the principles at Supreme Ventures are not foreign to Main Event.
Including yourself?
Maybe would have taken us on the stock exchange. They would have been following our progress over the years. They knew what we were doing before we went on the stock exchange, and they've seen our evolution as a business. So I've always set up a business with one principle in mind, that it must be well run, well governed, and in order to be available for sale. So if you're going to make your business attractive, you have to make your business attractive not just to your customers or your client base, but you have to make your business attractive to employees, and you have to make your business attractive to potential investors. There comes a time in business when you're going to have to scale up, or you're going to have to look at other opportunities, mergers, acquisitions. And in order for you to do that, you have to practice good corporate governance and just be, transparent, well managed, and to seize these opportunities as they come up.
Those are very key points. I'm sure people are taking notes. My viewers and listeners taking notes on that one. If you're running a business, you hear what Solomon say?
Well, I'm not necessarily an expert, but I try to do the right thing,
So when I mentioned, go ahead.
Yeah. So in doing that, there's no secret now that they call me to do some work for them at the track. I'm a third generation horseman. I'm very passionate about racing, but the business of racing needed to be attended to. and how do you drive more value in that sector and that whole industry if the central point of horse racing, which is the promoter, the racetrack, is not a viable proposition. So, I was almost kicked out of the track because here it is, I'm going in there talking about profits and delivering profits and delivering profits. But it's not just delivering profits for the promoter, but when the promoter is in a much stronger position, we're able to do a lot more. So I was very confident. I went in there saying that I was going to deliver profit and I was going to turn around the business. And in 12 months, we had an improved position in 2019. And then the pandemic hit by March 2020. We rode out the wave. We rode out the wave of the crisis. We're still in the crisis, but we were presented with some lemons, and we made some really good lemonade. Having done the different versions of lemonade based on all the different lockdowns that we're faced with, I guess me being an integral part of the transformation, they realized that maybe I'm a little smarter than everybody let on to be. So
Smarter than the average bear, huh?
I guess so. So
no,
with
but
that,
I have to give you kudos, the Solomon, before you continue, because Caymanas has been a loss-making entity for years upon probably decades under the government. They divested it to Supreme Ventures, and since SVREL, Supreme Ventures Racing Entertainment Limited, which you now chair, took it over, it has been profit-making. Well, I don't know how it's been since COVID, but in that pre-period, it had been profit-making. So congratulations on that. How did you do that? Like, what was the key to make it profitable after the government couldn't do it for so many years?
Well, when a government runs a business, it's a different setting. So I said, hey, in setting up a business, you're setting it up for profit, right? When a government sets up a business, it's probably set up for service, and then you had change of governments over the years. You'd have had different persons being appointed to the board, so there was a lack of consistency. Then there was a huge disconnect with the key stakeholders, the horsemen, especially the trainers. So I think having that advantage of growing up in the horse racing business, I understood that side. I then had a key step to make a transformation. How do I remove my emotions and bring my business acumen into play and say, okay, how do we bring the transparency in? How do we do the right things for the business and the long-term sustainability of the business to make it attractive for investors, to make more owners want to be involved, to make more trainers want to be involved, to create more employment opportunities. There's a whole heap of employment opportunities in and around the track and what it offers and all of these kind of things. How do we make these things attractive again for persons to want to come back? So the minute that whole thing started to take a turn is where finance started to say, hey, we're seeing now a positive cash flow. We're seeing the things going in the right direction. But in order for the grand plan to happen, and we had a big master plan that we had established late 2019, early 2020, which is what put us on a platform to help us to ride out the pandemic. In putting that whole master plan, how do we make this whole culture change and maintain my voice to say, hey, we are about making profit. We're going to deliver more to the stakeholders. So as government had to posture, to stay in government, you have to get votes. So you have to posture to the people, and sometimes government is just not the right person to be the driver of a business and to run a business, but they can be a good partner. So at the end of the day, we deliver great value, right? So we deliver great value to the government, create taxes, create employment, right? Create revenue driving, circulate revenue, and that's where the government will benefit and can meet the social needs and the services of the people. So
Right.
the government is there to do that. So it's difficult sometimes when you're trying to do that because it gets into a popularity contest and you have to overcompensate from times. But there are some times when you have to make hard decisions, and then for governments, it might be a little bit difficult there.
All right, so coming back to the deal. So SVL saw that you're smarter than the average bear and they started taking more of an interest in Main Event. That's basically how it went?
Yeah, but then, and if you look, SVL has been very bullish recently. They just acquired a microfinance company. They just appointed Damien the CEO of that whole division. But people fail to realize that gaming is a parallel to entertainment, right? And if you think of what built Las Vegas, it's gaming that built Las Vegas. So we go to Las Vegas today, we see all these big buildings, we see all these nice shows, but think about it, you have to walk through a gaming hall to get to all of this. So it was a gaming that built it. In trying to understand the whole thing, I've spent a couple hours at the table, and I remember a dealer telling me, "Hey, honey, it's not the drinks you buy here, it's not the food you buy here, it's not the hotel room that you pay for here that built this building. It's this game that we're playing. It's these cards that we're playing." So SVL, in looking broader on their business model, realized that entertainment was a key value. And I'd like to think that in all the work that we've done, we've established ourselves as number one. And if they're going to be the biggest gaming entity in the Caribbean, why not have a relationship with the biggest entertainment company in Jamaica? And we want to be the region's number one brand in delivering phenomenal experiences. And there's a lot of similarities and synergies there with SVL and Main Event. So they're looking to expand rapidly. And we were getting ready to turn on the afterburners for our rapid expansion plan when the pandemic hit. You saw in January 2020, where we had the best first quarter ever, and we were on a trajectory to blow it out of the water. The pandemic slowed us down, but with all the good results and that discipline that we had before, we were able to balance the ship. So when SVL looked and say, oh, whatever business that we were running there, and I can't even take all the credit. I have to really say big ups to our board of directors. We miss our chairman, Harry Maraj, who subsequently passed off. Our finance committee headed by Dr. Ian Blair, he has been a tower of strength. And he's not necessarily the happiest camper about this deal because he thinks that, it may have been a little bit premature, but sometimes in business, you make these decisions and you keep moving. And so our board was a tower of strength, and we were sitting on a good cash balance and everything. So when SVL looks over and sees that they're not just about the pump and the pageantry, Main Event is not just about the pump and the pageantry, and can deliver a good execution no matter what it is, but they are well managed on the back end. They said, hey, that's what we want to be a part of, and the CEO has shared a division for them, and I've shown that we know how to turn things around,
Yeah. So Solomon, some people looking on at this deal have been saying, hold on there. So Solomon is chairman of SVREL, CEO of Main Event. Isn't this a conflict of interest, basically doing a deal with selling a stake in your own company to another company that you chair or that you hold a position in?
Well, I'm an independent chairman there, so I'm not a material stakeholder or anything like that in SVL. So just like the independent shareholder as well, the independent directors that we have. So on our board, before the passing of Mr. Maraj, we had 4 independent directors and 3 in-house directors. So I'm the outside guy at SVL, heading up SVREL, right? It's just that it's a kind of sector that I get a lot of publicity. So I'm not the owner of the track, but I wish I was, because I think it has great potential, and I intend for possibly to be a real owner of the track one day, and for us to be having a different conversation down the road and taking stock on the whole stock value of SVREL, and hopefully we'll get it listed one day. So that's my real objectives there too. How can I be a substantial owner one day, or how could I make the public be a part of something that a 61-year-old history, that has all the potential in the world, and we're really going to take it in the next 2 years and ramp it up and make it great. So it's no conflict of interest. I've seen the comments on Twitter, but when you really dissect and you understand the things, and you know all the legal minds that go into all of these transactions, there's absolutely no. It's actually complementary versus conflict, and it's going to drive a lot of value for our employees. It's going to drive a lot of value for our key stakeholders, which is our shareholders, and it's going to make us a better, stronger company for our clients. And we have some clients that want to reach out in the region, and we have ambitions to reach out in the region. And SBL are already in Guyana, and there's a big oil find there, and there's a whole bunch of opportunities.
Big potential there. So I shouldn't be surprised then if sometime in the not too distant future, possibly, we hear a reverse of this conversation indeed, and Main Event buying a stake in SVREL and Caymanas, since that's your goal. A huge stake.
Yes, a huge stake.
Nice.
I have an employee that used to work at M-Style. Daniel, she's in a place called Belize that you might be familiar with.
I might be familiar with it a little bit.
You might be familiar with that place, right? And she's saying, oh my God, you guys need to be in Belize. There's so much potential here, and there's nobody that offers the kind of service that Main Event does here. So she's been spoiled. She's learned at the best place. She used to work at Sandals before. So having a Sandals experience, then coming to Main Event, and going to Belize, she's now seen huge opportunities. And
there's lots of opportunities in Belize. There's so much potential for development.
Exactly. So I did say we're going to be the region's #1 brand in delivering phenomenal experiences. So we have the wherewithal to deliver these experiences. So as I said, it's just at the point of how do you upscale, and you mergers and acquisitions and partnerships is one of the ways that you're able to upscale. And as a businessman, and I urge other business people out there, you're going to have to add that element of trust, and you're going to have to take partnerships. I'm in about 6 or 7 business ventures, and in all of them I have a partner, and it allows me to share my intellectual property and share my key skill set, but bring in others that even have greater value in a skill set to offer for us to scale up and move faster.
So let's talk about Main Event now, because you're in a very difficult industry for the pandemic. Revenues down 88%, profit down 71%. Ouch! But you still did turn a profit, not a loss, even though it's down. So tell me about how Main Event has been weathering this pandemic storm.
So in weathering the pandemic, first of all, we had to have good committed employees, and it was a very uncomfortable conversation at first. My salary personally was cut in half, and yes, I am an employee of the company, so I do receive a salary. And it's not even a huge one, because it's there to help to build a company for the long haul. And we had to do some layoffs, and we had to cut some salaries of some key persons and have a real honest conversation, because it was about survival. So having come off of that good quarter, we were very aggressive on collections, and we needed to, it's like went into hibernation now. we need to have a good cash balance. And through the stewardship of Dr. Blair, we were able to put together a good cash balance to weather the storm. That's why he's not necessarily a keen camper in the deal at this moment, because we're not necessarily at the greatest value, but we're still looking at the opportunities to move out of this thing as quick as possible for us to turn around the next conversation we're having to say, hey, you have tripled your profits and you have doubled your revenues and all of these kind of things. So that's the first thing to do. We went to straight work from home because you have to look at a reading of the situation, and we know what would have happened at a couple other workspaces. So how do you keep everybody safe in this situation? How do you read it? How long is it going to last? And how do you shift onto Teams and try and communicate as best as possible? I'll tell you that I'll apologize to anybody who felt that I've not been there as much as I should be for them. But it's unprecedented, and I've tried. It's been an emotional roller coaster, but we just had to be tough. And one of the things that we're speaking about before in the latter part of 2019, how can we be an agile, nimble company and build that resilience in the company, not knowing that we were really preparing for a real lockdown. So as I said, in setting up a business with good corporate governance, transparency, and making the company really thrive for the long term. And if the company thrive for the long term, Solomon Sharpe, the founder, and Richard Beer, the founder, would get a legacy. And this is something that I could potentially drive generational wealth. And so in that mantra, personally, I would have taken a hit financially, but the business would have been on a better standing to weather the storm for the long haul. So I think we've done that. We've weathered the storm, and there's a Super Bowl and there's these other events that would have happened with a certain amount of spectators. The Kentucky Derby just had 50,000 people. Major League Baseball is starting back with fans. There are some parts of the world where they're running experiments with 50,000 people concerts. But remember, there's a lot more that we do. We're a service-oriented business. Just recently, for the pandemic, for the vaccination drive, we set up a vaccination post in Hanover. We did a rollout for the government at the arena. So there's been a little bit of work trickling in to keep the whole spirit of the team going.
So it's not just parties and stage shows that you do?
No, that's about 20% of what we do.
All right, so tell me something. What is your position on the lockdowns and the curfews in Jamaica that have been continuing? Because there's a lot of controversy around that. There are a lot of people in the entertainment industry, in your industry, that are opposed to them.
It's a tough situation, but from an entertainment point of view, we have showed that we have kept Caymanos Park up and running. We've used that 200-acre facility. We've not had a, knock on wood, a COVID outbreak there. And with the right protocols, we can manage our space. We have had some conversations in the background, but I guess the government, in their wisdom and with a wider knowledge base than we have, and with getting advice from the WHO.
So Solomon, that sounds like a long way of saying that you think they should open back, that you can manage that.
I think the time is. I think we're ready now, and I think we can manage. And we can't move from 0 to 60 overnight. So let us take it in incremental blocks of 5s and 5s until we get to 10s, and then we will eventually get to 60, or eventually get to a position where we were at pre-COVID. So I think now is the time for us to start to release, relax, and allow. And so this is part of maybe some other little secret sauce in the whole deal with SVL, that how do we convert that 200-acre property to create constant entertainment value, which will now attract new eyes to racing, which will help racing to thrive, whilst bringing that other element of the entertainment values to the place, giving somebody else an additional thing to do. Caymanas is one of the biggest green spaces in Jamaica, and how do we develop on that? So we're talking about venue development, among other things. So I think the time is now, and it's key to hear what the Prime Minister says in his next utterance, or his next presentation. But it's also, we're also very mindful that we have lost lives. We don't want to lose. We didn't want to lose any. We don't want to lose any more. So, but with a greater understanding, and the CDC now saying that if you are vaccinated, you can walk indoor, outdoor without a mask. So it's fine for us to, to wear a mask and to keep social distancing, and we've seen where it has worked for us at the track. So I think the time is now for us to start taking that next step. But again, remember we spoke about before with governments managing a business versus, so the government has the business of the country to manage. They have the electorate to talk to. There's varying views. Some people don't run a business, so the lockdown doesn't directly impact them, but it will impact the economy down the road. It may impact what they do for a living. It may impact where they work and the sector that they work in. So there are some sectors right now that are not hurting, but remember now it's all a cycle, and those sectors are dependent on our sector and circulating money in our sector, circulating money in the tourism market, etc., etc.
Thank you very much, Solomon. I enjoyed speaking with you today. And I'm looking forward to the next big thing, main event. Make sure you call us first when you buy out Caymanas, all right?
Yeah, man. I'll give you some of the inside scoop.
Of course.
And when we get to Belize, we'll make you a director.
Yes. Let's get this money.
All righty.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Up next, we've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy.
Time now for your market recap, brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. The Jamaica Stock Exchange declined, with the combined index losing less than 1%. 108 stocks traded across both the main and the junior markets of the JSE for the week ending Friday, May 14, 2021. 56 advanced, 40 declined, and 12 stayed the same. 137 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling $793 million. Fesco traded the most, taking up 20% of market volume. The stock remained the same to open the week at $1.07. Wigton Wind Farm ordinary shares traded the second highest, with people buying and selling nearly 20 million shares in the company. The stock gained 1 cent to open this week at 65 cents. And Sagicor Select Funds Financial rounded out the most traded, taking up nearly 8% of market volume. The stock gained 2 cents to close last week at 65 cents. Now let's see who had the biggest gains. Portland JSX rose 46% to close last week at $10.40. First Rock Capital Holdings USD stock came in second for last week's biggest gains, rising 31%. The stock opens this new week at 12 cents US. And rounding off the biggest gains, Lasco Financial Services. Its stock advanced to 23% to open this week at $3.94. On the losing side now, Salada Foods Jamaica stock fell 23% to close last week at $7.22. Medical Disposables and Supplies stock fell nearly 20% last week, down to $4.25. And rounding off the biggest losers, Everything Fresh, which lost nearly 14% to open this week at $1. Market Recap was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers and Proven Wealth. Welcome back to Taking Stock. I've got a team of analysts to examine the week in business. I'm joined by investment, research, and sovereign risk analyst at JMB Group, Leovani Dillon. We also have with us this week investment analyst at Proven Wealth, Julian Morrison, as well as my colleague there at the Jamaica Observer, business writer, David Rose.
Kalilah, how you doing, Kalilah?
So let's talk about business, and let's start this week with Salada Foods. I'm sure they're into farming too. So Salada just had a pretty good Q2 after a not so good Q1. What are the highlights from Salada, Leo?
All right, yeah. So if you look on Salada's numbers, it was pretty good in the quarter. They saw strong demand for their products. The cost associated with getting that revenue was reduced in terms of the raw material cost for them. So if you look on the profits, it was up over 700% to 51.4 million. You look on the revenue, that was up about 29% to 352.9 million. So that was strong. Year to date, Salada has been one of the better performing stocks on the market. So it's up over 129%. I think the news, the earnings create another little positive move in the market so far in the early trading. So it seems to be reacting positive to that. The stock has been up over like 200% year to date at the highs. It's back off from that, so now it's up about 129%. But the thing about it though is that Salada Foods is kind of priced to perfection. So right now it's trading, even with these good numbers, it's trading at about 43 times trading earnings, which is kind of high relative to most other stocks out there. And the next thing to note is that it seems like coffee prices are going up. So that would be a problem for them. If that trend continues in terms of the raw materials that they need to make their goods. So if that goes up, then of course it can contract margins. So that's something to look out for. So the quarter is good, yes, but at this point, I would say that person should, if you have a lot of this thing, maybe you trim the position a little bit because of the big gains and probably headwinds coming up. So yeah, all in all, interesting. They did a split earlier in this year, which aided them the performance of the stock. So the stock was up. They did the split, and it made a big move higher. After that split, 10-for-1 stock split, you see the volume, the activity on the stock also picked up. So this is a stock over the last 5 years, on an average day, the value traded would be about $200,000. Now it's trading close to like $1 million so far in 2021 on an average day. So I mean, not huge money, definitely on an average day, but it's a big improvement for the stock since they did the split. So all in all, I mean, decent, but at the same time, that 44 times earnings is a bit concerning for me though. It's been higher, but that's kind of high compared to the most of the market out there. So you want to be careful of that.
So is this one to consider purchasing now? Is this one for holding? What's the recommendation?
How I would look on it is if you have a position, you're trimming it. I wouldn't necessarily go there and go buy it now. Reason being is that it is quite volatile and you have to be aware of your risk tolerance if you buy this thing. So this is the type of stock that can be up 30% probably in the next week, or it can be down 30% in like a week. So you have to be mindful of the volatility that you get yourself in if you buy this one. If you have it already though, then chances are you're gonna be up, especially if you had it like from before the start of this year, you're gonna be up significantly. I would be trimming just because that multiple it makes it tricky, because what happens at this point now is that going forward again, because if raw material prices go up and they can't sustain that, and then the profits come in, the stock can be vulnerable to a significant correction. And that's not something that's far-fetched, because right now the prices are kind of moving up. So at 44 times earnings, that can be a problem. So because of that, it's like it's priced for perfection, meaning that they'd have to keep performing like this for a little while in order to justify that kind of multiple, which is going to be challenging in the near term. So that's the reason why for me, I wouldn't necessarily be buying it here, but if I had some, I'd be trimming some, but not everything necessarily, but trim some of the position because of the significant appreciation. And
just let me put this disclaimer out there, you guys. You heard what Leo said. You have to be aware of your own risk tolerance. This is not to be considered investment advice. What you decide to do, you discuss that with your advisor based on your own risk tolerance.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So let's look at Massy Holdings. They're based in Trinidad and Tobago, listed on the TTSC, and there's recently been news that they have plans to follow their counterpart Guardian and list on the JSC, cross list on the JSC. And their profit is now way up. David, what are you noticing with Massy?
So Massy had a very strong quarter. We're talking about a company who derives about almost half of its revenue and profits from Trinidad, which I know Carnival got into a lot recently and was under severe restrictions and still managed to grow profit attributable to shareholders by 47% to TT $120 million, which is a very strong amount. But overall company, revenues are slightly down because of the company's recent moves to, focus more on becoming a investment portfolio kind of company versus a conglomerate. They try to extract more efficiencies out from that direction. So Massy like could compare to like a GK, but GK is more like financials and foods. Massy is a wide beast. So Massy has, gas products. So like, you see the gas trucks supplying gas and so on, liquid LPG, liquid petroleum gas. You have integrated retail, your distribution arm. You have, I believe the term is financial services as well, strategic investments. It's a very wholesome company. I said more than 50, 60 subsidiaries based on my last check. And the company, trying to come on the JSC signals a lot because for all this time, companies could have always considered to cross on the JSC without access capital. But because of what COVID has created, there is an opportunity for companies to reposition, do more M&As, mergers and acquisitions, and then move forward in terms of benefits from the post-pandemic world. So for Massy right now, if they were to list at their current price, TT price of $65, which is about $1,455 J, it will make them the fourth largest company in the JSC, just above Scotia Group Jamaica, but just slightly below Sagicor Group Jamaica. So when Guardian came to the JSC, it was number 3, just ahead of Scotia. In a week, pricing from 582 JMD to about 900 JMD, and they passed out and became the number 2 company in the market capitalization. And the thing is, Massy is very thinly traded there. A lot of persons, who, are work in terms of both markets, Jamaica and Trinidad, have said that a lot of persons have had to move their shares from Trinidad to Jamaica. So we're coming to cross-listing and coming to cross-listing on more than one exchange. You can actually transfer your shares from one market to the next. So in Trinidad, you see companies like NCB Financial Group, Grace Kennedy, Jamaica Group Limited trading at a premium to the Jamaican market. So let us say NCB selling it for 140 here in Jamaica. In Trinidad, selling for like 180. Reason being, Trinidad has a very bad FX problem. So as you know, Kalilah, you've been through an FX problem in terms of Belize, whereby, you kind of say that it's stable, but at the same time, you can't get access to the hard currency.
Right.
So in Trinidad, what they would do is that I buy my NCB over Trinidad, transfer it to Jamaica, sell it on the Jamaican market, and then just buy up some USD, send back to Trinidad. And that's not uncommon because even in the case of price match Trinidad, what they were considering recently to do in terms of getting access to FX or foreign currency was exporting goods overseas, I don't know to which customers, get those goods, get hard currency like US dollars, and then actually use that money to import goods into Trinidad. And that's just to show you how the current FX situation in Trinidad is really hampering companies or persons' ability to access capital. So for Massy and even Guardian to come to the JSC, it opens up a new window for them to access capital. Because you have the pension funds, institutional investors, regular Jamaican investors who actually are willing to pay for this company. And those companies in Trinidad trade at low multiples. So when I speak of multiples persons, I'm speaking about, like price to value, the price relative towards the company's value on based on its shareholder equity divided by the number of shares, the price to earnings. So even Guardian trades that PE in Trinidad right now of about below 7 times. Massy's trading at almost 1 for price to book. So when you're paying in Trinidad, you're basically paying for the actual value of the company on a wholesome basis. So it's going to be interesting to see what Massy does when they come to Jamaica. And in Jamaica, they were about 7% of their pre-tax profits from Jamaica. So you have Massy Distribution, which is a major distributor here in Jamaica, Massy United Insurance, which actually is one that sponsors this program, and you have Massy Gas Products, which supplies gas to trucks and different companies, so you need LPG to carry operations. So the fact that we're seeing Massy come to the JSE indicates that potentially might see more Trinidad companies come to the JSE, because you have the case of even Prestige Holdings, which owns TJ predecessor in Jamaica. They've already come to the JSE, and there are a myriad of other companies which can come to the JSE after seeing Guardian and Massy saying, hey, Jamaica has money, we want it.
All right, so you gave us a lot to think about there just now, David, but I just want to be clear on how the cross-listing works. So I am a shareholder in Trinidad. In order for me to trade shares, so let's say I'm a shareholder of Massy or Guardian. Let's use Guardian since they're already cross-listed, right? And I want to I want to buy or sell shares in Guardian Holdings Limited. I have my account in Trinidad. How do I trade? Do I do the trade in Trinidad, or do I have to do the trade here in Jamaica? Does it automatically transfer? How does that work?
All right, so let me use JMB, who has a brokerage firm here in Jamaica and a brokerage firm in Trinidad. I'm actually with my account now in Trinidad to take opportunities down there as well. So could cross listing it's the same company overall, but it's just that there's more than one market to trade the shares. So you have your shares in Trinidad, and let's just say you want to bring it here to Jamaica. What you do is something called an inter-CSD transfer, which is CSD standing for Central Securities Depository. So in Trinidad, their main CSD would be the TTCD, which is owned by the TTSC. You would go to the TTCD, put in your transfer form and request about how many units you want to bring to Jamaica, pay a fee, and you contact the JSC over here to make them aware that, hey, I'm going to transfer my shares over here. And you would transfer your shares over here to the JSC, and you could then sell those shares here in the JSC and get access to the JMD if you want. So it's not uncommon, because I said, people have been using GK, NCB, and so on for all this time, which is why they trade a premium over there, because if this is one of the ways to get access to hard currency, you would just, even if it's a loss, just buy it in Trinidad, do the inter-CSC transfer, bring it to Jamaica, sell it at whatever price you need to sell it at, and just exit. So even right now, Guardian, it's selling at about 650 JMD relative on a Trinidad market. And Jamaica is selling for about $900. It has 1,134 last week. So basically, you could have just made 100% profit, so I bring your shares to Jamaica, than leaving them on the TTSC. So that's the opportunity that comes with, a cross-listed stock, especially in our region, where there are several companies that trade in very illiquid markets. So even Massy shares, it's the actual announcement of the cross-listing, hasn't even traded out as yet. That's how thin and low the value is for those shares in the market right now.
Interesting stuff. So I'm sure that we're going to be seeing a lot more activity, especially with these two big companies now cross-listing. And I do have a relationship with Massy, with a couple other entities. So you would notice that Massy United Insurance sponsors segment 1 of this program. We also have a deal with Massy Distributors, Benrisi Baby Genius. So you guys check that out. There's a bit of other business news on the horizon this week. First of all, David, I'm joining your Observer team. In a sense, KRM is anyway. So you guys, if you haven't noticed, go check out the Jamaica Observer. Our content, including this show, is now on their website and on their in print as well. So we have articles coming up in the Observer. So that's a little bit of self-promotion, breaking money news. But we also have some other news. Julian, we see that First Rock is now making more moves in Costa Rica. How big a deal is this?
Well, First Rock is a company that has been doing some deals recently. They've been building out their portfolio. So it's a very pivotal time for them. Right now, when they're choosing the assets or where they're choosing the different territories, what it will do is position the company from a risk perspective, and set the expectations of what to anticipate in the future in terms of returns. So we know that some Latin American territories, they give diversification advantages. Most of the listed entities in Jamaica that invest in real estate don't have mentionable exposure to Latin American states. It's usually Cayman, Jamaica. This is interesting. It's just a matter of keeping our fingers on the pulse to see what is going to materialize in the future. But real estate is something that needs very careful due diligence because these assets are not liquid. When we make an investment in a real estate asset, it's not very easy to execute and exit, right? So it's something that needs careful attention. But what I'll say is interesting times ahead.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the lab entering, well, they incorporated their company Scope Caribbean. Leo, I don't know how closely you follow the influencer market, but Scope Caribbean is a company that is going to tap into the influencer market through influencer deals, advertising, different things. How important is this? Is this the wave of the future?
Yeah, definitely. There is some upside to it. How much money is in there is it's going to be difficult to say without a lot more data to crunch and to see how much revenue you can generate from that. So yeah, I'd have to reserve any real deep look into it until I have more numbers to work with to see how it can change the company's bottom line.
Yeah, I saw some data from Global Ad Trends showing $47 billion is the fall in linear TV ad spend over the last 5 years. And conversely, 39 billion is the rise in online video ad spend over the last 5 years. So digital is the way to go. I mean, the growth of this show is a perfect example, David.
Yeah, and Kalilah, if you think about it, influencer marketing strategies are very important in terms of value added because the audience that a specific influencer can reach might not be the audience that a specific brand might be able to reach at the same cost, right? The company might have to spend far more if they didn't have the influencer to get that same audience. So there could be significant advantages in terms of customer acquisition costs. So one, it benefits the lab because it adds to their value chain in terms of what they offer, and also it could benefit their clients from that perspective.
So let's wrap up. Oh, you want to add something, David? Add something on that point before we go to the final.
I'll quickly. So I'm just going to say that it also creates opportunity for to monetize the current space in the region because in China they actually have schools where they teach you about how to be an influencer. In the region we don't necessarily have that kind of organized space to capitalize on this market. So a lab to come with this scope in this case actually benefits overall market because you can actually find influencers now or actually manage talent easier. So it's a good thing for creating value and formalizing the system within the region.
All right, so let's look at our final talking point for this particular episode. We know, Julian, you like to give us a look at the international markets. This week, you're looking at Monster Beverage Corporation. Their first quarter earnings are out. What are the highlights?
Okay, Monster Beverage Corporation, they did fairly well. So their earnings are up 13% to 315.19 million US dollars. However, their sales are up 17.11% to 1.24 billion, right? So that's a very attractive margin. Their operating expenses also creeped up 10.5% to 300.79 million year over year. That's March over March as at 2021. What's also interesting is the fact that their operating cash flows are still healthy, even though they're down about 8.2% year over year to 175.5 million. What we notice is that sales, earnings, and operating cash flows are all healthy, which is very important because, again, we want to check for the quality of earnings, not just the quantity. Another highlight is the fact that core sales were up in all market segments, led by Latin America and the Caribbean. So Latin America and the Caribbean might be their smallest market, but that's where they had the most growth year over year. However, all the market segments were up double digit year over year. So that's a positive sign, especially within the context of a challenging economic environment across the board in terms of consumer goods. So this is very promising. The company has no debt. Their cash is up 68% year over year to 1.18 billion as well. The PE is a bit rich though. It's about 33 times as is. The last time I checked, the price was around $89. And it doesn't really pay dividends. So it's really a growth play in terms of the value proposition for investors. And the stock is currently down about 9% from the 52-week high. So it's something worth looking at, but strictly from a fundamental perspective, the company is doing extremely well. And they are in their bag, as most people would say. Company, they're in their bag right now, you know?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about for real. Well, thank you so much, guys, for your input this week. Always appreciated.
All right,
It's
Kalilah,
good
take
to be
care.
here, Kalilah.
All right,
Right.
Kalilah, thanks.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers and Proven Wealth. That's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share with a friend. Also subscribe to our newsletter at KalilahReynolds.com and turn on those post notifications so that you can be the first to see all of my other videos. We want to help people learn more about money so we can all get this money together. Now this week on Money Mondays JA, I'm gonna tell you how to do business, including buying a house in the United States without being a citizen. What? On Money Moves JA, I'm telling you how you can get your business ready for the export market. Let's get that US money. So follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kalilah Ray and follow at Taking Stock JA on Instagram. If you want to connect with the analysts this week, check the description box below for their contact information. Also, visit our website, KalilahReynolds.com, for financial information you can use however you like it. Watch, listen, or read. Now tell a friend about taking stock. Investing is the new sexy, darling. So let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalilah Reynolds. Stay safe out there.
Let's get this money.